Spinning the Wheel, round two. And we have Kung Fu Panda 4. Let's get it going. So, Kung Fu Panda 4 is a movie that I don't think needed to exist. We had the trilogy. We had set up a trilogy, and that was fine. That was good. It ended at a good place. It told everything it really needed to tell. Why do we need a fourth one? Where do we go from here? I don't know like the plot of this movie or anything. I don't know like what it's actually centering around. I know Kihi Kwan is in it, so that's fun. But yeah, I don't know like why this movie exists, what it's about, like where we go in terms of the story, because it's like we've kind of already done everything we needed to do. It's one of those franchises, and this happens like has been happening notably in animated franchises in the past years that just keeps going well beyond its necessary time. It's like Toy Story, where it's like, okay, we should have ended Toy Story at 3. Having a Toy Story 4 was stupid, and the movie was also bad. And now there's going to be like a fifth one, and it's just like, just stop. Just stop already. Like, yeah, it's gonna make you money. But it's like, we don't need this shit. You're ruining an already perfect franchise with stuff that just is going to, like, be lesser. And it sucks. Because Toy Story 3 had the perfect close. And it's beating a dead horse. It's just at this point where we don't need it. And I'm really afraid Kung Fu Panda is going to be the same here. I'm really afraid that this movie is not going to live up to the first three. That it's just not going to work on that same level. It's just one of those cases where we just don't need more. And I honestly don't think this is going to be like a case of like Frozen, where the second movie was actually like notably better, even though the first didn't really need a sequel. That was kind of like a rare occasion. It's like, oh, the first movie was great, doesn't need a sequel, told the story well. We got a sequel anyways, and hey, the sequel ended up being like even better. Like it actually was a surprise. But we can't expect that to happen every time. And again, this isn't just a sequel to a one-off movie like we're getting with like Zootopia or something. No, this is a fourth film in a franchise that also has at least one TV series. And it's just like I'm just really worried about it. And I think another worry I have is that in recent years, Jack Black has become a parody of himself in terms of his acting. Like, this is a guy who can do, like, amazing dramatic acting as well as the comedic stuff. But in the recent years, he's become a parody of himself. He's just been, like, flanderizing his performances. And it's sad because I know how good he can be. And I'm really worried that he's going to do the same thing here. And it's like Poe as a character is a really well rounded character, pun intended. And so it's like I really don't want his character to just be as flanderized as possible. Because this character's already super goofy. This character's already got a lot of like wackiness and over the top bullshit to him. But like I said, he's surprisingly well rounded. He has a lot of depth to him. And that's what makes the first three movies so good. So I'm just really hoping not to be let down by this. I don't really, again, know what to expect from the story and whatnot, but I guess we'll find out. So let's get into this and see what we have in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I knew going into this, I didn't say anything during the pre-thoughts because I wanted to, like, just not really think about it and think about, like, going into this as fresh and hopeful as possible. But I did hear, back when this first came out last year, that there were some people who were not a fan of it, who like compare it to the first three films, and basically have the thoughts that I was worried about. You know, like I was talking about, like with Toy Story and everything. How I'm like, oh, does this movie need to exist? Does it like erase all the goodwill that we left off on? And does it like feel like it's just taking away from the great like point that we left the series with after 3? And I can happily say no. I think that this movie is a surprising case of it actually not only worked, but added onto it in a way that I felt actually improved on things. The idea of Poe being promoted to spiritual leader and having to train up a successor is a great concept because it's the next logical step after everything that has happened in the first 3 movies. After all of the growth and him mastering the way of the Dragon Warrior, there's nothing else to do with him at that point. There's nothing else that really makes sense to carry his story into except paving the way for the next generation. By having him be promoted to spiritual leader and having him have to train up a successor, in this case Shen, it allows us to feel like true progress has been made. Poe is a legendary master, and no one can ever deny that. By the end, even Tai Lung, who was very much against Poe being the Dragon Warrior, acknowledged him as such. Acknowledged that Master Oogway was correct in choosing him. He turned his thoughts around on that. And that was kind of the big thing that really sold it in the end. Because, like, throughout the entire movie, it's like this was an absolute blast. It was fun, it was funny, it was exciting. But it's like that's what really sold the message and the theme of change, of growth, of moving on to that next step in your life, which is always a good theme to tackle. And it's one that a lot of people do have this exact problem with. People are afraid of change, and that can come in various different ways. But change isn't always bad and is sometimes necessary for your journey throughout life. And it can still be terrifying for a number of reasons. And change can come in so many different ways too. Change can be like more literal, it can be more figurative. It can tackle like physical changes you need to make with yourself, mental and emotional changes, just changes in your lifestyle, changes within your mindsets. There's so many ways that change can occur. And yeah, it's going to be scary. It's going to be upsetting. It's going to be hard to take in and tackle. But it's important to take that risk, to take that leap, and find a way to just move forward. And sometimes that means that you're going to have to, like, do things that you don't want to do. Sometimes that means you're going to have to take steps that you don't feel like you're ready for or deserving of. Like, obviously, like, I could cite my coming out as a big example of change for myself. Like, when I came out as trans in 2017 and everything, it was a big deal, and there was a lot I had to change. And there was a lot of things I tried to change that I realized were not changes I needed to make. There was a lot of things that I had to experiment with in regards to change. And I'm in a much better place because I took that risk. I took that dive. Instead of just playing it safe. I could have just played it safe. I could have pretended like nothing was different and kept it hidden inside. And in some ways, there's parts of me that wish I did. And the leaps I took are not going to be right for everybody. I know that. They were right for me in that moment and with what's come after. But that's not going to work the same for everyone. But those changes that I made, that I chose to make, for me, helped me a lot. They helped not just shape me into who I am now, but they helped allow me to, honestly want to keep living. If I'm being completely honest. There was a lot of pain I was going through, and taking this risk alleviated a lot of that. Not all of it, but a good amount, most of it. And taking these risks just made my life better. So I really appreciate what this movie did with that kind of discussion, especially in regards to not feeling ready for that kind of change, not feeling worthy of it. All feelings that I have felt over the years, and especially when I was coming out. So, yeah. Now, with other parts of this movie, there are two negatives, I would say, and I want to talk about this. First off, the Chameleon was just not as good a villain as the previous three. Master Shen obviously is the best. Like, that's just undeniable. I loved Kai, I loved Tai Lung, but Master Shen, and just Kung Fu Panda 2 in general, like, really, really understood the assignment. And the Chameleon has a great concept, but I think my biggest issue is that the movie's not long enough to properly execute on it as well as it could be. I love I mentioned this during the reaction. I love the concept of a villain who has this nuance to her, who has this pain from her past, who feels like everybody was against her and she was forced to become a villain, forced to become a bad guy because of it. Because she was never, like, not just taken seriously, but was never, respected or cared for or shown any kind of positivity. She was treated like shit. And because of that, she chose to make that everybody else's problem and pass that pain on to others, most notably Shen. Basically, it's the cycle of abuse in a lot of ways. And it's a great concept, but in a movie like this, it needs more time. It just needs more time to settle. And not a huge amount of more time. This is like an hour 25 and all. or so, something like that. Hour 20, hour 25 without credits. Honestly, if this was like just like 15, 20 minutes longer, dedicate a little more time to really developing her and showing her pain and everything, I think it could have worked excellently. Because it even can express her own fears of change. And why, even though, like, as a chameleon, she can change physically, she refuses to change emotionally and spiritually. Instead, like, relying on, the pains of her past to guide her into a future. So, I think she could have just been done a little better. The second negative I have is that the side story with Poe's fathers, while fun, felt completely needless. And honestly, if you took away all the time that was dedicated to that and put that towards the chameleon or other stuff like Shen, I think that would have been much better to use that time for. Because it felt completely unnecessary. It felt like it was just honestly a waste of time. It was there for comedic relief, and that's clearly the intention of it. Because Poe's story with Shen and all was more serious. This was a more serious Poe than we've gotten in the previous films. And yeah, there was still some comedy and goofiness with him, but comparatively, it was a lot more serious and focused. And that's fine. And I understand the reason for the comic relief, for the overall like levity that this side story gave. But honestly, I don't think it was good enough to really warrant its own existence. Like, the only thing that really came from it is me shipping those two more. Like, that's really the only thing that I got from that entire thing. But other than those two issues, other than those two negatives, I really enjoyed this. Like, I think I would say it's not as good as the second movie. I would say it's on par with the first and better than the third. So it's kind of right in the middle for me. Um, the second is still the best one, but and again, it's better than the third movie, which is still really good, by the way. But I would put it like right on par with the first one. It's just kind of like whatever I guess in the mood for at the time. Um, I had no problem with the Furious Five being absent for the entire movie outside of the very end, and even then they didn't get a speaking role. I know there's going to be a lot of people, or well, had been a lot of people who would definitely not have liked that. I bet you, like, looking up reviews and stuff, that'll be a big complaint people have. I actually like the decision because the Furious Five worked for the first three movies, but with what the theme and topic of this film was, I think they would have taken away. I think this needed to be a lot more focused, like it was. And it's the same thing with both Master Shen and Kai not having speaking roles either. If you gave like speaking roles to every villain, every character who the chameleon, was taking the kung fu from, it just would have overloaded the movie. It would have been too much. And so I think Tai Lung was the correct decision out of the three of them, because of him being, you know, Poe's first enemy, and being the one who has that biggest connection to all of this, to the Dragon Warrior history with Master Shifu and everything, and has the biggest connection to Poe's overall narrative. As such, I feel like it was the right decision to have him come back to acknowledge Poe by the end, and to be the big villain who from the past who would herald the future. Because this is basically the end of Poe's story. So bringing Tai Lung back from the beginning of his story just makes the most sense. This acts as the end of Poe's story and the beginning of Zhen's. And if there is another movie, which from what I read is kind of up in the air right now, it's like there's a possibility they're thinking about it, but it's not confirmed. I think they said if it does happen, it won't be before 2027, which yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, if there is, I honestly think the next one should focus more on Zhen as the new Dragon Warrior. I think Poe should actually take a back seat. I know that sounds wild to a lot of people, but I really think that would be the best course of action. Like, that's what this movie was setting up. I like the twist of Zhen working for Chameleon, even though it was like super easy to see coming. It was like obvious as hell. Because the movie actually makes you doubt that twist briefly. Because it's like, oh, I found someone who took me in, and you're like, oh, it's the Chameleon, definitely. But then you're introduced to the Pangolin, you're introduced to Ke Huy Quan's character, and it literally tells you that he took her in. So you're led to believe, oh, that's who she was talking about. Okay, I was wrong. But then it comes back and reveals that, no, you were right the first time. It was the Chameleon. And I like that. I like that kind of double twist. And I also like that it didn't take too long for the entire, oh, I messed up, I should have been loyal to Poe the entire time, little character arc for Zhen. So many movies have done this kind of arc where it's like, oh, the character is revealed to be a traitor or a bad guy, or working for the bad guy all along. And then there's this big, long, drawn out portion of the story where they have to like come to realize, oh no, I actually care about the hero, and I made a mistake by betraying them, and I should never have been working for the bad guy all this time. It usually is too long of drawn out. So I like that it was very brief in this one. I like that they made it like resolve pretty quickly, with Zhen realizing almost right away that she fucked up. But I like that Poe also took responsibility for it. He also took responsibility for messing up and acknowledged that he has been a little too trusting and kind, and he hasn't like really given a lot of attention to the idea that people could be bad, or that people could be like using his kindness against him. So it shows how far he's grown, that he's willing to take that responsibility, that he's willing to acknowledge his wrongdoings. So I really like that as well. The action, the soundtrack, all of that was as good as ever. Had no problems with that. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was an absolute blast. I thought it like perfectly lived up to the first three films. And I think it was just like overall a success. And I'm very happy about that. I was very worried about this movie going in. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. And I'm happy that the Wheel of Fate has chosen it for today's reaction. So yeah, we will continue throughout this entire month doing these randomizer wheels to determine our movie reactions for all of November. And I hope that we can continue to get ones as good as this. So thank you as always so much for tuning in. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Kung Fu Panda 4? Also, I forgot to mention this, because I think it's because I'm choosing by the wheel. I've been forgetting to mention this in these videos. But this was a donation reward by Venom, so thank you as always, Venom. I think it's just because I've been like focusing on like, oh, let's spin the wheel, and then I focus on talking about the movie, and I forgot to say who actually donated for the movie. It's most of the time going to be Venom. There's a couple on this on the wheel that aren't from Venom, and I believe I said in the other in the previous one we did that there's also one that I just personally put in there. But yeah, most of them are from Venom, the vast majority. So just letting you know that right off rip. But yeah, tell me your thoughts down below, and thank you so much as always for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.